also professor of the atmospheric oceanic science, and brilliant brain, believe me. And he had done his technology course in IIT, Chennai, then went to New York University, did his MS, and Stanford, he did a PhD. And then he came back, settled, developed this program. And he is the editor of some of the COP 27, it happened recently. So earlier, the 3-4 edition, he was the person who prepared those things. And more than that, he's a simple, honest, straightforward man. His values, we have to emulate, most of them. And he believes what he says. Carbon footprint, we say that. Carbon footprint, I think each one has to reduce 2 tons per person per year to keep the carbon footprint. That he practices literally. He walks 2 kilometers to his house, comes back 2 kilometers here. He walks every day. And he practices what he preaches. But more than that, one a great human being, he encourages everything. And also, I do mention he is the nephew of late Sir C.V. Raman, Nobel laureate. So we are very proud to have here. And also, today's program, we have our international president, Yashwant Patil, and also is there. And also we have from patron, international past president of Commonwealth countries, Dr. Sirajul Islam is also from Bangladesh. We are also welcome for them all. So formally to introduce the welcome everybody, I request Professor Srinivasan to take over. Thanks.
Good afternoon, all of you. Dr. Paramesh has been organizing this monthly seminar on health and environment for last almost 2 years now, right? And so every last Thursday of the month, we meet here and we hear eminent doctors talk about various issues. And today he has highlighted a very important issue relevant to many of us now, which is Alzheimer's. And he has invited an eminent doctor, Dr. Thomas Isaac. And so on behalf of Dr. Satish, Chairman Dev Center, I invite the speaker and I request Dr. Paramesh to introduce the speaker. Thank you.
I think in the absence of Professor Satish, I welcome you all. Wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon, good evening, good night, whichever part of the country, 53 countries, Commonwealth countries. I once again welcome you all for this program. And just sensitizing the issue before Dr. Thomas starts speaking, I like to mention few of the values, what we learned from the environmental issues as a general practitioner, general medical man. Alzheimer's disease recognition and process. Alzheimer's disease and dementia are non-communicable, progressive, irreversible disease of brain, increasing globally as age progresses. And it is estimated that 40 to 50 million people are the sufferers globally, and is increased from 20.2 million to 43.8 million between 1990 to 2016. Almost 117% increase. Is a phenomenally high, to make the statement. Over the age of 60 years, a crude estimation is 3.9%. It is less in Asia, Africa when compared to America and European countries. And also in the age group of 65 to 74 is only 3% in India. Over 84 years is almost 50%. And the rural people suffer less than the urban population. I think rural in India is estimated around 1.1%. And the Dementia, this Alzheimer's is a part of it, is a major public health problem. Need research on environmental issues in, in particular air pollution, as a matter of fact, air pollution documented. And also these studies have come from Mexico, where the dogs were taken and they cut open, seeing that plaque coming there in dementia and all those things. And of course, many people, age-related issues quite normal. We all tend to forget it. After 60, 65 years, memory start coming down. After 75 years, we identify later on. And 85 years, it becomes more. This is normal phenomena. That cannot be mistaken for the Alzheimer's dementia and Alzheimer's disease. I think, how do you differentiate as a clinician? I think many people know what happens. Most of the time, we forget our glasses, we forget our keys, and we search for it where it is. It is in their own pocket. Many times what happens, glass will be like that. I've been searching my glasses all over, it not find out of it. Finally, your wife, your daughter says, Papa, that is on your head only. What? It's on my head. Is this the one? Oh, I see. This is memory loss. Oh, it is here. Oh, okay. I'll put it here. This is Alzheimer's disease. They don't know where to put. So this is a simple way of explaining to you. Now, ladies and gentlemen, and we are here to learn more about the environmental related modifiable risk factors for Alzheimer's and possible solution in this context. To talk about this one, we have here none other than Thomas Gregor Isaac, and he did his MBBS in 2009 in Kerala and Mahatma Gandhi University. And here afterwards, he came to Bangalore. He has done MD, DM, National Board, and PhD at NIMHANS, nationally known institute. 11 years he studied on all these things in post-graduation, all these things. His PhD is on geriatric psychiatry and vascular-related dementia. It was in 2016. He did PhD first, then the DM he did it. He was a talent search MD PhD, did it from the talent search. From the ICMR, Indian Council of Medical Research, and selected him. And he's completed his DM in the February 2022, this year only. He has over 50 scientific papers published in the peer-reviewed indexed publication. He is highly recommended by his colleagues and teachers at NIMHANS. When I called NIMHANS, because we are doing a research work with the NIMHANS, the VHS Center Climate Change, on the depression in the rural atmosphere in India. We are on the co-researchers in that one. And I think 4 taluks are there selected in India. One taluk is from Karnataka, that is Tirthahalli in my district, Shimoga district. We are very happy about to know that one. And so we are going to learn more about that issues. Now, over to Professor Thomas Gregor to speak on the issues, to highlight us how the environmental issues we can minimize those. Thank you very much. Over to you, sir.
So thank you one and all. Good evening, as well as good morning, good night, everything for the other foreign candidates and people who have logged in. First of all, I thank you for the kind and generous introduction, sir. I am actually a small person compared to all what you are and your team is. And definitely, I think climate change is something which is a reality now. I think 20 years before, if somebody was telling about this, people would laugh at him. They are coming in way of advancement, development, and so on and so forth. By 1990 end, you had the Escotel, the mobile phones, and then you had the Nokia 3310, which was my handset. Then after some time, you changed into handset into smaller with smartphones and things. So evolution of technology was there, rapidly evolution. But along with that, there was also a rapid decline in the kind of involvement with climate. So I used to remember, and I would also like to admit that when I was a small child, my house actually was little, and I think it would be same for everybody and more so for my seniors, that we had a biosystem or an ecosystem around our house. Gradually, we started migrating. I'm not from Bangalore, and I'm sure people in this whole majority of them are not from Bangalore. We would have been migrated from different places. So that has resulted in a lot of transition. And with transition came positive change and negative change. So let us look into that as in a neutral point and would see whether how it would actually affect the evolution of something known as dementia. And of dementia, the most common type of dementia, that is Alzheimer's dementia. So let's try to kind of peep into that. So this would be my outline. I would be looking into giving some introduction about what is dementia, what is Alzheimer's disease for people who are here and people who are means not much aware. But I would be very happy because Dr. Parameswar had actually shown how exactly Alzheimer's dementia is in a very simple one-word thing, that when you lose your memory, but when the loss of memory is so significant when it is affecting the function. So that is the dementia. So I'll be giving some introduction, then looking into the role of environment and its implications in cognition. What are the three players we have here? We have the football season going on. So here we have three players here. That's the environment, humans, as well as the disease. Then we look into the role of five elements. So now we have to integrate and see. We say about Panchabhutas or five elements and the environmental issues of all of these with respect to dementia. So air pollution is the most important contributory thing, not just because it is the most common, but it is the most studied one. And how to recognize dementia early? I think as a clinician, that is my duty to also kind of communicate to you all. And what are the screening tools which can be utilized to kind of identify dementia early? And finally, looking into the various solution-based approach to actually manage dementias. So, as I have already told in a prelude, dementia is a syndrome of cognitive, behavioral, and functional decline. So what happens is your cognition is getting affected. So cognition means all the different domains of your brain activity, which is getting affected, which would also result in some behavioral abnormalities and also result in functional decline. So when these three things are there, you actually tell that this is dementia. And Alzheimer's dementia is the most common form of dementia. So we have something known as young onset dementia, early onset dementia, or the late onset dementias. So late onset dementia arbitrarily told that if you are more than 65 and you develop illness or dementia, you tell that is more likely to be senile dementia. And that most common cause for senile dementia is Alzheimer's dementia. Now, people who are young, less than 65, can also develop dementia. There would be many causes. There could be strokes, there could be some frontotemporal dementia, there could be some other forms of Lewy body, Parkinson-related dementia, so on and so forth. But even in that group, people less than 65, the most common cause of dementia is Alzheimer's dementia. So that is the significance of Alzheimer's dementia. Now, is dementia a good thing or a bad thing? First thing we have to understand, it's kind of a collateral damage. You have to live long. So associated with age and increased longevity. So somebody who is supposed to live till 60 years and has a chance to develop dementia when he is 70 years may not develop dementia if he passes away by 65. Whereas if he lives on for 70 or 75, it's likely that he would develop dementia. So it is a burden which comes with the increased longevity. And increased longevity has been the aim of almost all the countries across the world after the Second World War. We were all trying to develop things to improve the human condition. Medical things were actually coming. 1953, we had the penicillin. Subsequently, we had developed a lot of other kind of panacea or care kind of things for improving the life and the expectancy. So along with that, we should also understand that with everything, there would be a cost associated. And I think dementia is one of the collateral damage associated with increased longevity. And there's an epidemiologic transition. For countries like India, especially other countries in Asia, the majority of our population is of younger age group. They are the youth or the adolescents as of now. But gradually what has happened, there's been increased trend. People are getting older and the number of younger people are reducing. This is known as what is known as the epidemiologic transition. And you would have heard of the term, definitely I'm sure, that there was initially a pyramid kind of picture with respect to the epidemiology. And now we have what is known as a barrel kind of picture. So this has happened over time. And now gradually over time by 2050, it is estimated that the prevalence of dementia will be tripled. So it would be like a non-communicable illness, but of a pandemic nature. So that is the most important aspect when we have to look into the epidemiological transition. So this is also very much important in a country like India, where we have a lot of people now in the middle ages and in the youth. And over the next 30, 40 years, all people, including me, will be getting older and older. And when you get older and older, it's likely that you may also develop dementia and other neurocognitive disorders. So that is one aspect. So another aspect with respect to, I think with respect to the environmental aspect is that more longevity means more exposure to environmental factors. So you are here, you are likely to get the risk factors if you live near a factory, or if you live in a place like Bangalore where traffic is 24/7, you have enough and more reasons to be exposed to air pollution every day when you commute to work. So definitely with more longevity, more environmental risk factors, and more likelihood of developing these kind of neurodegenerative illnesses. And there's a change in environment over the last few decades. And I'm sure none other than you people would be of sure that last few decades there has been significant change in the environment. The microclimate and the climate is drastically changing. In morning you are expecting showers, by afternoon it will be very hot, and by evening again there will be showers. We don't know the reason, and there are a lot of other studies, and I am sure you would have experts on this, but definitely it is all attributable to the climate change. And there is a resource scarcity in the low and middle income countries. So that is the most important aspect. So majority of the people, if I were to tell the next sentence first, see the carbon footprint as Sir mentioned, it is not a problem just for the entire world. It's a problem mainly for the developing countries. But the problem is the carbon footprint left by the developing countries is much lesser compared to the carbon footprint which is left by the developed countries. So it's actually, I will say, an exploitation. If I were to say, we are still being exploited in that way because they have the largest industries, we are the largest consumers, we are the largest markets. But we are being exploited by the carbon footprints. The footprints they left behind, we have to kind of mop up, and we are suffering the consequences because majority of our population are getting affected by the all this pollution and other aspects. So it is also true in research with respect to dementia. So it is found that only less than 10% of research in cognition is happening in people in developing countries who constitute more than 66% of the entire global population. So that is where the genesis of the 1066 group in 2000 had come. So this is a specific group which actually looks into research of dementia and other neurocognitive illnesses in the Asian countries where the research is less than 10%. So that is something which I thought I would bring to your attention. And we all know about the industrial development and cognition. It is there in last 2-3 centuries, from the time the steam engine and all started. Gradually, people became more sedentary. People became more involved in other tertiary jobs, and the primary activity and dependence on the environment, even though at an indirect level increased, but direct level came very much down. So that is the introduction. So now coming to the environment and the cognition. So we all have heard of the concept of nature or nurture. So we have a developing brain when the child is born. So when the child is born, he has to have education. There will be aspects in his neuropsychological domain which is developing, and there would be activities he is involved in. Because when he or she is involved in these activities in a very nice manner with lot of interaction of sports, music, other alternative and recreational kind of habitats, it is what is known as an enriched environment. An enriched environment is supposed to be kind of protective against dementia. Whereas a non-enriched environment, when you are in a dependent state, when you don't have much exposure, when your stimulation is reduced, it is likely that they are more likely to develop dementia or neurocognitive disorders. And this is proven in animal studies. So this is something quite important. And then there is a concept of neuroplasticity with respect to enrichment. And when enriched environment is there, the neuroplastic changes, adaptability, cognitive flexibility, memory functions are kind of better. There's something known as homeostenosis. As we grow older and older, our body systems cannot compensate for the increased energy requirement and other activity requirement. For example, when you are in your 20s, you are able to climb up 10 stairs, reach there, you still will be breathless, but you are able to climb up 10 stairs above the 10 floors and reach the 10th floor. But what will happen if you are in 50 or 60 years of age? You still be able to climb up, but by the 5th floor, you will be able to be breathless and you may not be able to proceed more. So this is because the pulmonary function and the muscular function are not able to compensate for the increased requirement of oxygen, which is there. So this homeostenosis is one of the physiological problems which is associated with aging, and that is one of the reasons why you become more vulnerable to cognitive aging also. So there is something known as a cognitive reserve. So what is a cognitive reserve? Like we have a reserve petrol tank. This is something which is known as a cognitive reserve. So cognitive reserve is something which will help you to overcome dementia even if you are vulnerable. So what are the tenets for cognitive reserve? It's people are telling that there are a lot of studies that if you have multilingualism, if you are able to switch between languages, if you are well educated, if you have a good nutrition and a good educational level, it is likely that you, even if you are able to forget one item, you will be able to use alternative strategies to get yourself remember that particular item. For example, the specs thing. For example, if I will just cite Dr. Parmesar in this, he has put a person with dementia had put his spectacles on his head, and he is trying to locate where is the spectacles. He is not able to remember where exactly. But if he was somebody who is having a better cognitive reserve, he will try to go back in time. Okay, I had not put it in the table. I had put it somewhere. I had put it in some other place. So where it would be. So he would be utilizing alternative strategies and then understanding, okay, I would have kept it on my head itself. So this is one way. We all would have done that. Sometimes we will forget to do something. We forget to send some email or something. But after some time, we realize, okay, I have forgotten this thing. I have to do that. So we are able to retrieve, though it will take a longer period of time. But this happens because of cognitive reserve. And when that is affected, we will dip into what is known as the dementia state. And there is a concept of cognitive resilience. So when there is good cognitive reserve, along with that comes what is known as good cognitive resilience. Now there's a broad forward concept of dementia. So I told you dementia is supposed to develop for a person at 75 or 80. If he is exposed to environmental toxins and pollutions and all that aspect, it is likely that the dementia age would be brought forward. So instead of him developing dementia at 75, he would actually develop dementia by 55 or 60. So that is the broad forward concept of dementia. But there is another thing known as super agers. So this is a concept. Actually, the most elderly people in the world live in Japan. And you would have seen people in Japan, they have themselves lot of concepts of aging, and with respect to that, people are actually studying the diet, health aspects and all that. Even after world wars, even after radiation, even after lot of environmental pollution, how do people their age so much, and how is their longevity more? Not more than that. Super aging is a concept wherein a person who is 90 or 95 is having similar or better cognitive capacity than somebody who is 60 or 65. So how is that possible? That means his cognitive reserve will be super, or his cognitive resilience is excellent. So these are things which aging studies are looking on, is something known as super aging, to see whether what are the preventive factors which reduce the onset of dementia in such people and which protect them against dementia. So with this small kind of background, we'll go into the elephant in the room, that is the aspect of environment. So what I'm telling, from conception to development of the illness, there is genetic susceptibility and environmental exposure. Genetic susceptibility is a non-modifiable risk factor, whereas environmental exposure is a modifiable risk factor. And there could be changes at different levels. It could be at the molecular level, it could be at the genetic, epigenetic level, and finally it could be at the organ and the system level. So this is something which we have to do. And the research should be not just, so for example, I am studying dementia. It is not just right for me to study dementia at when the person is having dementia. I should understand the trajectory. So to understand the trajectory, I should look at what is known as the lifespan research, from womb to the tomb. This is what the research should be. So I have to actually look at the birth cohort, middle life cohort, and aging cohort. So the Center for Brain Research is actually looking into the middle life cohort and the aging cohort. But still it has to look into the birth cohort to see what are the factors which from the mother's womb make you susceptible to develop dementia or not. It is well known that even among twins, some people are more cognitively resilient than the other twin partner who is not that much. So these are some important aspects which has to be studied. Now, this is one important slide which actually shows that as the age increases, the present human life expectancy is in the x-axis, as and the future human life expectancy, which is supposed to increase up to 100 years, is also there. So, if you see the as the age increases, the bioaccumulation of toxic substances also increases. So, man is at the top of pyramid. We claim that we are at the top of food chain, but it is not so. More than the food chain, we are at top of the pyramid of aging. And disease, old age, and death are inevitable. So this is the Buddhist philosophy, and I know that you all know that these are three things which are inevitable, which we cannot change. The disease aspect is being controlled. There was an important thrust on control of infections and diseases in last century, but now the focus is shifting to non-communicable illness, and dementia is one of them. Then there is exposure to new objects and circumstances. People are getting exposed to technology. People are getting exposed to computers. We don't know how much that will help us or not. Uh, Previously, I don't know, we may be watching TV 1 hour, 2 hours, or something a day. Now we would be watching our systems or mobile phones. I don't know how many or how hours we would be spending on that. We don't know the side effects because we are too early to have any side effects. Maybe the next 10 years we will get what is now. So whatever the studies on mobile phones has been actually happened from the Scandinavian countries where they started using the mobile phones before. And they understood. I think all of you would be aware of the studies which says that the sperm count reduces in males when they use mobile phone and constant access if they put it in their pant pockets. So these were the initial studies, but this is an industry behind this. So we don't know how much of the research findings are actually reported or not. We may not be able to do many things, but we can do what at small level, at preliminary level to bring out the truth. So I think that is also an important aspect. And neurodegenerative illnesses are on the rise. So there is no kind of confusion about that. And I'm sure, like we had the pandemic last 2 years, there is a possibility that there is going to be non-communicable disease pandemic because we are not going to die. We are going to be on ventilator or we are going to be supported based on our insurance and our support systems. But the problem is whether our quality of life will be good, whether the dementia and other cognitive issues will be there with us. So these are some challenges which we have to see. So I'm now coming to the important aspects, the players in this particular area, that is the human, environment, and the disease. So there's a tremendous pressure on the environmental resources. We require more and more environmental resources. Social interactions are limited. There is a saga of development. So there has to be development, healthy development, and then all these are likely to trigger what is known as the key mechanisms of dementia. So there are economic drivers, social interaction, and cultural context. We have to take all that in mind. And it's not easy to just act on the social interaction and bring about changes in cultural and economic drivers. So if we do about economic drivers, people as well as the government or the other authorities would tell that the negative impacts we will do when we actually do some kind of intervention at the social as well as the cultural levels. So here there's an interaction between all these three game players, and we have to understand these interactions, and we should see how best we can find the balance among all three. We cannot stop development from happening. We cannot stop technology from growing. We cannot stop radio signals being coming out or in. We cannot stop air pollution fully. But can we reduce it? Can we balance it? These are the challenges which we can actually kind of achieve by taking the middle path. So now coming to the Panchabhutas, I think this is the concept very important and well known to all of us. We have the five bhutas or the five elements, key elements, which is Akasha or space or what is known as ether, or Vayu or air, Tejas or the fire, Jal or water, and Prithvi the earth. So this is what is the environment around us. And we are also constituted by these Panchabhutas according to the concept. But the truth is, if any of these are affected, disease can happen. And that is well put in the Ayurvedic manuscripts more than the modern medicine. And to some extent, we have to also believe that modern medicine is a recent medicine and Ayurveda has been the age old medicine. So we have to accept that to some extent, but never forget the scientific rigor with which modern medicine is there. So we again have to have a good balance between both of them. So let me go through each of the bhutas and what environmental impact issues have resulted in impacting the cognition. So let's come to space or the ether or akasha. So I would try to kind of put it in this way. It's my kind of classification. You don't have to refer any textbook. It's just to make us all remember these aspects. So if I were to tell in the space, there's an electromagnetic field exposure, which is supposed to worsen dementia pathology. So this is well studied, and there are a lot of studies by Dasdag et al. About this. And one of the recent studies says that the amyloid beta plaque, which is the one of the pathology of Alzheimer's dementia, there is increase in the amyloid beta plaque formation when there is exposure to electromagnetic fields. And magnetic field exposure increases risk of Alzheimer's dementia to a great extent. This is also one of the studies in 2009. Now, this has been studied in Sweden, where they had this train drivers who would actually be going in this particular electric train or this kind of bullet train, we tell. So they always had the lines above, and they'd be always exposed to the electromagnetic field. And it was found that there had a hazard ratio was 3.5 for them for developing AD. So they were actually having a higher risk for developing Alzheimer's dementia. Now, we all use this Wi-Fi radiation. It is also found that it also damages the microRNA. MicroRNA is an important type of RNA which is kind of very much required in the splicing and kind of uh, protein manufacture. So that is somewhere it is also quite important. Now, it has also been found that 2.5 gigahertz Wi-Fi exposure leads to altered expression of microRNAs and leads to dementia. So this is again the DASDAC paper. Then mobile phones. So mobile phones, actually, there are a lot of studies. Now, there is a conflicting report. Some of the studies actually claim there is no definite problem. Some of the studies say that there is a definite problem. There is no middle ground. So there would be, but we can all assume that mobile phone is a big industry. It's not just an industry about the device manufacturers. It's a device about the signal operators, or it is a device of the particular spectrum where it is. So we don't know the truth. But the one thing is for sure, I think all of us have experienced that if you talk on a mobile phone, whether even if it is the most sophisticated phone, for about half an hour, it will get heated up. Okay. So that is the definite for all of us. So when it heats, that means there's a radio frequency which is emitted out of it. And there is some conversion of the chemical energy inside the batteries to the heat energy. So this is also not a good thing. So constant exposure is resulted in what is known as increase in serum transthyretin. So serum transthyretin is actually a protective molecule. And when it is increased, it means that it is trying to compensate for the side effects of the particular electromagnetic field changes. So there has been some studies with respect to that. And there has been studies that higher frequency of radio frequency exposure can result in increases level of the beta amyloid protein carbonyl and malondialdehyde. So these are some of the important studies which has been kind of put with respect to the issues with respect to the space or the air, means akasa or the ether aspect. Now coming to air pollution, I think air pollution, lot of studies have been done, and I think Dr. Parameswar is there, and we all know that lot of studies are there. So and in WhatsApp or other social media, you would have seen pictures of people getting operated in Delhi versus in Dehradun, where the Delhi person's lungs are fully kind of mottled and black, whereas that of a rural resident is quite clear. So there is definitely significant evidence. And impaired cardiopulmonary function is a risk factor for Alzheimer's dementia. And the vital capacity also reduces with age, and so does the cerebral perfusion and oxygen transport, which is affected. So the most important aspect in Center for Brain Research, we have done studies in rural population. To our surprise, we saw that they had more of white matter changes in the brain. Now, how can it be explained? They are getting the best air. The cohort comes from Srinivaspura, which is engaged predominantly in mango farming. They are agriculturists. They are getting good quality air. Then how can they get white matter changes? When we actually looked, one of the links was that they are using more of solid fuels. Still now they are using more of firewood and charcoal kind of solid fuels, which would actually impair the air quality inside the house. And it is known that the white matter hyperintensity is more in women than in the men who go outside and work. That also means that indoor exposure to the solid fuels is a major risk factor. So that is one important aspect. So air pollution and dementia, a lot of studies are there. And this fine particulate matter, 2.5 ppm exposure is correlated with increasing dementia incidence. This is a recent paper. One of my colleagues in Bhopal in ICMR only has published this. And they have found that the PM 2.5 is a risk factor for all cause dementia, Alzheimer's dementia, and vascular dementia. So this is one important aspect. There has been a study for 27 years, which has in Seattle, and they found that if you increase 1 microgram per cubic meter of exposure to all this particulate matter, it corresponded to a 16% greater hazard for developing Alzheimer's dementia. So that is the kind of challenge we are facing. Then exposure to ozone as a risk factor for dementia is also being looked into, and there is preliminary evidence for that. Oxides of nitrogen and dementia, nitric oxide, nitrous oxide, which are also being used as anesthetic agents, have been found to have effect in actually causing synaptic degeneration and can result in dementia. Carbon monoxide and sulfur dioxide, again, are significant evidence in kind of developing dementia. There are a lot of such studies. These are some of the studies which I have gone through so that I can give an overview rather than pinpointing each study. So these are some important aspects. So if you look at the air pollution risk and outcome, there's an increased risk with PM 2.5, and the likelihood of developing dementia is significantly more. And if you look into the long-term exposure to air pollutants, cigarette smoking, and along with that, if there are associated cardiovascular and cerebrovascular disease, which is contributed by all this pulmonary impairment due to the pollutants as well as cigarette smoking, it can result in cognitive decline and dementia. So I'm not going to elaborate this slide, but I just would like to tell you that the changes happen at molecular level, at cellular level. If you see at the molecular level, lot of immune mediators are released. And these immune mediators all can together can go through the blood-brain barrier, cause inflammatory change in the brain, and result in development of more and more upregulation of the APP, as well as more and more deposition of the plaque. So these are the most important aspects which we have to see. Now coming to water pollution, I think we have covered the space as well as the air pollution. So coming to water pollution, how bad it is. The role of heavy metals in drinking water. Actually, the initial studies found that people who are undergoing dialysis started developing dementia. Then they tried to find out why people undergoing dialysis are developing dementia. Then they understood that aluminum, which is used as an adjuvant in the diacylate solution, is something which can actually trigger the formation of the A beta oligomer plaques, which are initially it would be water soluble and later become water insoluble. So aluminum is considered one of the important toxins which is present in water, which can precipitate the formation of Alzheimer's dementia. Waterborne copper is something which is also toxic to the brain. It can reduce the zinc levels, and it can also cause neuropathies. Lead-related chronic encephalopathy. I'm all sure that there would have been many research in lead and associated aspect. So lead is another one kind of person who is a villain in the dementia story. Then halogenated residues. This can also kind of precipitate dementia. Use of acrylamide and presence of bisphenol A can also trigger issues with neurodevelopmental age groups associated with autism, ADHD, but now there are a lot of studies on dementia as well. And then microplastics. I think that the newspapers are filled with data on microplastics, about microplastics be found in fetus, in breast milk, and so on and so forth. So microplastics is also one important kind of potential kind of a harbinger for development of dementia, and this the research has to be kind of evolved and kind of increased. Now, what about the Tejas or the fire element? So I have tried to put the cosmic rays and radiation exposure. So radiation exposure can happen when you go out of space. So you have Elon Musk coming and telling you will colonize Mars. After some time, maybe after 20 years, I'm maybe out in Mars and giving this talk. That also can happen. So in such situation, it is possible that cosmic rays can actually have issues. So there are a lot of studies, and role of galactic cosmic radiation has been found to affect dimension, affect the cognition. It has been also found that space travelers or the astronauts, when they are going in the outer space, it's likely that they will be more and more affected by the radiation because of the lack of ozone layer, and they may develop what is known as a kind of psychotic kind of phenomena blurring of cognition, as well as can precipitate dementia. This has been also observed in some pilots, and the studies have been actually from the veterans in the Vietnam War. There is also role of microwaves. So microwaves has been studied in animal models. Some people have told that it is quite useful in removing the plaques. But actually, there are a lot of studies in the recent last 2 decades which show that it also has a role in triggering the plaque formation. But the most important aspect is not this radiation which is going or coming from outside, but rather we have also been what is known as developing into what is known as the cancer epidemic. So with cancer epidemic, you will have treatments for cancer coming, which could be chemotherapy, which could be radiotherapy. And you would have heard people getting radiation for their cancers. And that is something which can also trigger dementia. So whole brain radiotherapy and dementia, the link has been established in late 1980s itself. But now what is happening, it has been found that dementia in patients who are irradiated for head and neck cancer, people who are chewing oral tobacco, people who are, we would have seen now the oral tobacco epidemic is again coming back. Previously it was smoking tobacco, now it is smokeless tobacco. Most of the people, we cannot blame anybody, but to stay awake in the jobs they are doing, they are taking nicotine patches or they are chewing some of these kind of substances which are quite detrimental to their health and especially to their oral health, which can result in oral cancers. And one of the treatment for this oral cancer is not just surgery but radiotherapy. And radiotherapy is not a very focal, it can also irradiate the brain also. And when the brain is irradiated, there's likelihood that they may not develop the dementia immediately, but after 10 years or 20 years of the radiation, they may develop it. So this is another aspect. Now, invasive investigations are also coming. Mammography, which is supposed to be done once in 2 years or 3 years after the age of 45. That also has a high risk of radiation. Now, PET imaging, we tell to, it is very useful in diagnosis. But you have to also understand that PET imaging also uses radioisotopes, which are invasive and which can also trigger the development of plaques and dementia. So we have to see the benefits versus the risk, choose the benefits or the risk, and then take the treatment rather than blindly going for the particular treatment, especially in case of cancers. So I will just try to tell about the water pollution once more. So this is a picture from Bangalore itself. And if you actually see, there is industrial, pharmaceutical, and agricultural waste all together. We are now telling about waste segregation. We are getting fines being paid if it is not properly segregated. I think it is a very good thing. Segregation of waste is the most important aspect. Otherwise, it will lead to kind of intolerable damages, especially to the brain. So industrial, pharmaceutical, and agricultural waste, it should not be kind of kept together. Water disinfection and clarification has to be done regularly, and there is contaminants in the water condition. So all this can, what will happen is there will be a presence of heavy metals and toxic organic compounds. So, and when this will happen, as I told you, we are at the claim that we are at the top of the food chain. There's nothing to eat us. So we are at the top of the food chain. So what will happen? All these things will get accumulated in our body, in our tissues, in the adipose tissues, and other joint tissues, etc. And this can result in pro-oxidant and inflammatory events in the CNS also, can result in significant apoptosis, or what is the programmed cell death, synaptic degeneration, and developmental delays. All this can result in accelerated neurosenescence, that is aging of the brain, suboptimal brain development, and increased incidence of neurodegenerative diseases. So this is what will happen if we are not kind of careful about it. Now, contamination of soil, it is related to water pollution, but most important aspect is the use of insecticides and pesticides. So how do they act? I'm sure all of you would have more knowledge about this than me, but I would like to tell that insecticides and pesticides act by the method of acting on the nervous system of the pests or the insects. So it will actually kind of kill them by acting on their nervous system, by making them not breathe or affecting their neuraxis and all that. Same thing can affect the humans also. So the pesticides which you use, like organophosphates, carbamates, and pyrethroids, these are actually notorious to cause what is known as cognitive decline. And organochlorines and organophosphates are associated with the greater dementia risk in the one famous study called the Cache County study. And they have found that hexachlorocyclohexane is a compound which can actually trigger dementia. This from the Indian study. So Indian studies are there in north and south. They have looked at the agricultural population and they found that there is cognitive decline when excessive of the pesticides are used. But the problem with these studies are they are not followed up longitudinally over longer time. So we have not got a good idea, but this is something which we are actually looking at. And we should also know the reason for this studying this in community is also quite important. There has been some discussions with people at CBR, and we found that actually all these compounds, if you see, they affect the neurotransmitter system of the brain. So for people who are aware, you would know that the serotonin and dopamine are important neurotransmitters of the brain. And when pesticides are used excessively, they can actually reduce the level of serotonin and dopamine. When dopamine is reduced, you will get what is known as the typical Parkinson's disease. So long-term people who use pesticides, they tend to develop Parkinson's disease. Even people who use formalin in the lab for long years without proper precautions can inhale formalin vapors, which can affect the basal ganglia and result in Parkinson's. Now, if the serotonin levels are reduced, it can result in depression, because serotonin is an important hormone which is kind of protective, which is having an important role in maintaining the mood. So when serotonin levels are reduced, it can result in depression. So this is also something you are telling about farmer suicides, people committing suicides. But why farmer suicide? Is there an organic reason behind it? So these are some of the questions. Some of the actually senior citizens had come and asked this in CBR. So we felt that there is an important aspect. And I think the studies in Tirthahalli will also throw light into these aspects, looking at the environmental toxins and their association with depression and other mood disorders. So this is something of very importance. So I would just like to say that we have covered the 5 Panchabhutas. Now, this is the Lancet Commission reports in 2020, and it shows that 40% of the dementia can be prevented. So this is the most important paper I would tell in the last 10 years, because it shows that dementia is not treatable, is what we know. But the truth is, can it be prevented? Yes, it can be prevented. 40% of the dementia prevalence can be prevented. And how can it be? And what are the contributors? So air pollution contributes to 2% of the dementia prevalence. So if we control the air pollution, 2% of dementia can be reduced. So 2% means, see the numbers, that it would be 54 or 60 million people. And if you get 2% of that is prevented, you see how much you can actually help them. So that is the most important aspect. Look into the hearing loss because of being uncorrected due to social or environmental causes. If that is also corrected, you can actually reduce 8%. Look into the traumatic brain injury, the environmental aspect caused due to accidents, not putting helmets and so on and so forth. So if you actually control that, you will reduce 3%. So these are some modifiable factors which if we try and kind of modify, we can prevent 40% of dementia. So that is one important aspect. So I think this is something which I wanted to put across. And I will also try to just give an insight into how to recognize dementia early. Many of the people in our community, neighborhood, family, friends, relatives may be asking questions. So what are the warning signs of dementia? So I just thought that I will give to your attention also these things. So it would be memory loss. It would be difficult in performing familiar tasks which they were doing before. Problems with language, not able to properly talk, or they will have issues in writing issues also. Disorientation to time and place. Poor or decreased judgment. Problems keeping track of things. Misplacing objects like the spectacles. Changes in mood and behavior. Challenges understanding visual and spatial information. And socially withdrawn activities. So these are important warning signs if we actually look to kind of pick up or screen for dementia. So these are 2 important tests we can actually use. I will not elaborate on this. These are the mini coke test, which we can actually give 3 words for them to remember. Then I ask them to draw a clock with a particular time, that is 10 minutes after 11. And then after the clock drawing, ask them to recall the 3 words. So if they are able to recall, fine. If not, then we have to see, we have to further assess for features of dementia. It's called mini coke. Now this is the Hindi mental status exam. It's also a very simple screening tool. So the score is total out of 31. So you just ask the basic things. This is even useful for the Indian population. And it is a easy screening tool, takes only 10 minutes and assess various domains, and we can help in early referral and treatment. So there are solution focused approach. So now we are coming to that kind of approach or treatment. How do we kind of treat this? So can we cut down on development? It's not possible. Can we have changes at individual level? It is possible. Can we have changes at society level? Very much possible. Can we have changes at policy level? Yes, it is also definitely possible. But more importantly, can the attitude change so that we can minimize the things and get things done in a more efficient manner? So here there is the role of cohort studies, and these are some of studies that the Center for Brain Research is doing. There's a Tata longitudinal study of aging and the Sanskog study, which is a Srinivaspura aging, neurosenescence, and cognition study. Now, how can we actually prevent? So I told you 40% of the prevalence of dementia can be reduced. Now, how we can do that is to go back to the basics. So we can have a sensitive diet. People who are non-vegetarians suddenly to become vegetarians may not be easy. But if you be a sensitive, if we have looked into the caloric requirements and the need to have a change in the dietary patterns to the extent possible, one of us can do that. But most importantly, what happens to the recyclable aspect, the cans and pots or the pans or the other utensils which we use to take food? All that aluminum foils and all are being used. So can we actually reduce that? That's something which we can use at an individual level. Smarter travel. So if four of us want to go to one place, why don't we all go together rather than in individual vehicles? There are small changes. Switch to green energy supplies. I think all of us are practicing that. There is an impetus of solar energy which is coming in. I think we can actually use that, and lot of battery operated vehicles are also coming in. So there are positive things in stock actually. Shop differently, kind of reduce more of plastics and all that, and share the voices and educate. I think all of us are doing that. Good. I think we should continue doing that at a greater level. So that is something which I thought I should actually tell. Now there's a collective responsibility. It is not the responsibility of Dr. Thomas or somebody else alone. We should do as a group, but it is our responsibility as well. So there's a role of NGOs, role of public-private partnerships, role of institute like Diveja Foundation, which actually formulates policies and brings about positive kind of research outcomes, which can actually convince the policymakers. That is where these kind of foundations are even more strong, I feel. And role of schools and colleges, I think that is something very important. And schools and colleges, if the children and youth join together, I think the impossible can be made possible. The role of things at the panchayat level, even at garbage and waste segregation, and even looking into aspects whether these garbage or other pollutants are affecting the cognition and health is something quite important. Role of state and union governments, they also have to exercise caution and come up with good, strong policies. And role of corporate social responsibility schemes, which could also kind of unify all this. Now, coming to policy changes, we have a lot of policies. I'm not going to elaborate on all these policies. We have a lot of these policies on environment, pollution, all that. But what I think is the need of our is a national integrative health and environment policy, an integrative policy which looks into both health and environment. So that is, I think, it's a need of the hour. And always, I think doctors tell that prevention is better than cure. I again repeat that prevention is better than cure. And how can we actually reduce dementia? From whatever we know from the research and from whatever from our common sense, everything boils together. This is keep active, check your hearing and vision, stay socially connected, avoid any injury to the brain, do activities you enjoy, eat healthy, look after your heart, because brain health is equal to heart health, equal to lung health is what I will tell, and also equal to kidney health, because all these vital organs are the things which ensure we have a good life. And we should have an environmental pyramid. We may be claiming that we're at top of pyramid, but we are standing only on the top of pyramid because the pyramid is actually there, and it is built by all the organisms around us, the plants, the trees, from all different kind of species across, and because of which only we are sustaining, and it is our duty to sustain them as well. Leave and let live is the policy. So role as caretaker and facilitator, and renewable source of energy to be utilized, recycling of aspects, all the waste objects, and transition to an holistic integration. And conserve world as a global village. Whatever I am talking, somebody in Sweden, Switzerland, Australia is listening, and the same thing for me. So it is easy to convey the things across. So technology is enabling me for that. So let us stand together for this kind of activity, to stay together so that our health will improve when the world health improves. So that is the concept I just want to tell. These are the references and further readings. And I special thanks for Dr. Paramesh sir and the team at Divecha Center for Climate Change for this small opportunity. And I thank you very much. And with this, I would like to conclude. And I would also like to invite you all to the Center for Brain Research, which has been recently inaugurated by Sri Narendra Modi ji. And I would like to extend my invitation to all of you. You can just come across and we can maybe discuss things, network, collaborate, and look on things in a futuristic perspective. With this, I thank all of you. Special thanks to one and all. Thank you.
Well, indeed, it's a great talk. As a matter of fact, we covered all Panchabhutas, brought the philosophical thing, spiritualism, philosophy, and the science together. It's a wonderful thing. And how the space, air, water, soil, and cosmic rays going to contribute significantly for these things. And I think here that we have enough data to substantiate. Calderin and also Sheridan, another study, upper airway also mentioned allergic rhinitis contributing, lower airway contributing. All these things occur at 2.5 micron, crossing the lung barrier, entering to the brain directly is being affected also. And you covered very well. I think any questions? More than welcome. Yes, Madhu is here. Any questions? Internet, any questions? Any questions? No questions? I think before us, there are two other people is there from Rotary. She are the secretary and now the president-elect of the Rotary Club, from one of the biggest club of Bangalore. And so, Punita, nice attending this program. And so Harsha is there. His father was the retired Chief Justice of Karnataka, and he is in the information technology and all those things propagated. Thank you very much coming here. Rotary always think about it doing this dialysis machine. It is water expensive, energy expensive program. As a matter of fact, now the global warming, climate change increase the climate change, temperature change, increase the kidney damage much more so than earlier. And also the way we are thinking about the fructose related water, that contributing significantly. And also it contributes carbon footprint 7 times more than other people. It's a major contributing factor. Rotary, we're always thinking of the dialysis, maybe you should think about in future. Maybe different alternative way to doing this. It's a energy expensive, water expensive, and carbon footprint expensive procedure. It was not aware earlier. This is something the Rotary people are propagating. This information I just wanted to highlight to you. And also you're right, sir. I think we did a study in the rural area and all those things. We are 25 kilometers away from Bangalore, 7 kilometers away from highway. The girls used to suffer most than the boys. Boys used to go to the agriculture field working together. We have that study. And girls working with the mother in cooking, using the agriculture waste as the cooking fuel. That's contributed nearly 28 to 30 times more pollutants than anything that. These girls used to suffer more than the boys. If you look at the non-communicable diseases like asthma is an epidemic, the boys suffer more than the girls, 2:1 ratio. But here in this village, girls suffered more than boys. And also another study we did it, there 20.5 times more pneumonia in indoor air pollution. So we have enough data to substantiate which cooking fuel they use, we have that data. Electricity is the best. Where do you get the electricity for everywhere? Okay, having said that one, and you covered very well, so we're proud of it. But anyway, as a concluding remark, We are getting older and older, whether we like it or not. Earlier, we had to live only 30 years, 40 years. Now we are almost 75, 80 years. We're living now. So I think we have to maintain for memory, for ourselves, certain things we have to do. What are certain things? Keep an exercise yourself. Physical exercise, a must. Everyone at least to do 20 minutes of exercise per day. Children, 1 hour. It is not extracurricular activity anymore. It is a curricular activity has come now. We have to have children 1 hour activity. Second thing is mental activity. You have to keep it alert. Puzzles and all this thing. You showed that picture. Puzzle, crossword puzzle, Sudoku, whatever it is. Please doing it. That keep your mind occupied. Third thing is the socialization is a must. Our scientists are always there in the cocoon. They don't move around. They're thinking of only that research, what is the result, was the result. I think link has to come. I think medical profession has come as a link for the society. We have to move around. I think invariably we go to club. I think Harsha is there. Every Monday we meet in golf club. He's a golf advisor, one of the finest human being. I think we'll meet every Monday in a golf club. And Century Club, Bangalore Club, these are where we meet people. We don't talk anything else, watch sports and discuss and come back. That keeps the mind occupied. Fourth thing is I like to keep a notebook always. I mark what has to be done, what has to be done. Every day it will be there. Without this diary, I don't go anything like that. This is my diary. Some people using the computer, I'm not that good at technology. I use that notebook. And sleep well. Sleep is a healing process. Like he suggested, during sleep, healing process occurs from the viral infection, air pollution, with an oxidative stress producing all these things. Melatonin is produced only at night time. That helps healing process, not with a pill. Natural sleep. At least 8 hours for children is all right. Adults is 5 hours good enough. Our prime minister sleep only 3 hours. Even 3 hours. If a good sleep you have, that's good enough. That's a must. You become taller only at night. Your healing process happens only at night time because growth hormone also produced only at night time. You become taller only at night time. So next is a healthy diet. He covered the vegetarian diet always best. Non-vegetarian, good. Whatever you used to eat, changing a pattern is difficult. But only thing is avoid the red meat as much as possible. Because vegetarian, 1 kg carbon produced. Chicken and all this thing about 5 to 10 kg per kg of carbon footprint they produce for the 1 kg of meat. Red meat, 35 to 45 kilos per kg of red meat. I think these are all the information for you to do it. Encourage fruits, vegetable, and all this. They are the best thing. But whatever is that, use to it. The next is keep your control of your disease. If you have most of them elderly age, we have diabetes, is all related air pollution also. And also because endocrine disruptor are coming from the various chemicals, fertilizer, and also Kerala is very well known in endosulfan. Still they are fighting. And government said there is nothing wrong. Only later on the industry from the Ahmedabad identified that endosulfan causing all this problem, spraying on the cashew farm and all this thing. So I think keep if you have a blood pressure and anything, diabetes, you take the medication, what your doctor, follow the doctor. These are all 7 items you can do it. Keep ourselves active so that we don't forget anything like that. With these type of thing, I think if there are no questions, I'll request our Secretary General of the ComHead. He is a professor from the KIMS. So Madhu, please come give the vote of thanks. After that, we are all going to have a picture. And also our request, sir, we like to put all these things in the YouTube from the institute. And also we are going to print our bulletin. With your permission, we'll do this. Okay, thank you.
Good evening, everyone. At the outset, I would like to thank the speaker of the day, Dr. Thomas Isaac. Thank you for the good talk, sir. And also the DHR Center Yes,
I
sir.
think we forgot to hand you a small token of appreciation.
As a token of appreciation,
Yes, sir.
we would like to call you
Before,
on the stage.
giving vote of thanks. Dr. Srinivasan to
Thank you, sir. We also thank the DCCC Center for Climate Change for organizing this meeting. And every month we have this new topics with the new speakers coming up with the recent changes and most advanced topics what we are dealing with day to day. And also with the concept of monthly meet, we also try to send across these messages online also. So as a part of the ComHead, I would like to thank the DCCC Center and also our president, Paramesh sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Ananda. Yes.
let's have a picture, all of us.